So my name is Anneka. I'm a primary school teacher. I also do a little bit of coaching on the side because apparently I just sat down. That was the issue that she had. And she was just like, "Why are you sitting there?" Her face was just red. Everyone's always looking at somebody else. I want what he or she has got. Um, and no one ever looks at deep within and looks at the gifts that they have. There's lots of hats as teachers that we wear. In some cases, you're like a parent figure, unfortunately, because they don't have that at home.
Yeah.
So you're a parent figure, you're a carer, you're an educator, you're a mentor, a counsellor. But it's more to, I don't know, it's unheard of in England so much. They do that a lot in America, I know that. But actually looking back at it, it does happen a lot, but they're told us different rhetorics to the story, so we just didn't know, we didn't realise that was happening.
Okay.
It just happened on a slide.
Before we start this episode, we're going to ask the viewers, right, a big favor, right? So what we're asking is, we've looked at our stats and 84% of people watching this channel have not yet subscribed. So our goal, right, is to get this down to 80%. So if you like the channel and you like the direction of travel, just hit the subscribe button. And this, right, will help us in more ways than you think, because the bigger the channel gets, the more guests we can encourage to join us on our now famous couch, like our next guest. So we've got our guest today, Anneka, and you're our second author.
Oh,
You're our
nice.
second author, so we the trajectory is going great for us now. But and you've also got a passion for children and self-esteem, confidence. And we're going to have an interesting conversation today because there's quite a few areas that I want to explore with you on this topic. But before we go into it, I'll let you introduce yourself, tell the viewers who you are and what's your profession.
Okay, so my name is Anneka. I'm a primary school teacher. I also do a little bit of coaching on the side, online coaching, and yeah, that's me.
Yeah. And very active online as well.
I try to be. I need to get a bit more active, to be fair, but yeah, I'm getting there.
We like the affirmations that you put out there and the positive quote. And I think, especially in the times now that we're going through,
Yes,
we need things like that to
absolutely.
get us through the day.
Yeah.
But we'll explore that today.
Okay.
And we always do a disclaimer. If any discussions on our platform, if it triggers anyone, we will have some comments below, some information below for people to reach out to services or reach out to Anneka. We'll put her contact details as well, so reach out. So before we go into it, we always like to say, try and understand the person.
Okay.
So before you was an author, before the school teacher, what was life like for you growing up in school? And what would you say some of the key moments are that's kind of like shaped who you are today?
Well, yeah, I'll dive straight into because before, when I was from the ages of up until about 6 years old, I was very extroverted, confident, bubbly. I was just, but then an incident happens where I moved school and um, the head teacher, he brought me to a classroom, empty classroom, mind you, no adults was there. He said, "Oh, this is your new classroom. Go ahead, go in." And I said, "Okay." So I went in, I saw an empty chair, sat down, and I looked around. It was strange because it wasn't like a normal classroom with normal children. Everyone was just like spaced out. It was crazy. It's like, because when you have a classroom normally without an adult, they're chatty, they're laughing, they're giggling, just being normal children. But this wasn't the case. They looked, when I look back at it now, it was fear basically.
Yeah.
They were just spaced out. They were quiet. They weren't engaging with me because I'm the type of person that would just talk to anyone at that age, and they just do anything. So I sat down, and then that's when I met this teacher. Crazy. It was she just walked in, she went ballistic, really ballistic. Because apparently I just sat down. That was the issue that she had. And she was just like, "Why are you sitting there?" And her face was just red, cheeks were red. Um, I was a bit shocked at the time, obviously. And then she just shouted and screamed at me, and then she said, "Get yourself up now," and made a place for me to sit down. So I sat down. That was my first experience of meeting that teacher.
Yeah.
So and then my school life then, it seemed like a long time, but I don't think I was in that class for very long. But when I say very long, I would say a few months I was there. Um, she put the fear in me. She put fear in me. I was frightened every single day. I couldn't learn properly because I couldn't make a mistake. If I did, then I knew the repercussions that what would happen. So she just terrorized me, terrorized the rest of the class. Really, I really don't know what was. I don't know what her problem was. I just never experienced that before. That was the first experience, and then it just I just felt uh, I lost confidence in myself.
Yeah.
I lost my self worth, my self esteem. Um, but I think I was very good at hiding it. At home, I was a different person. At school, I was a completely different person. Um, but yeah, I definitely affected my education at
Yeah.
that time. I just didn't like to learn. I was too scared of making that mistake,
Mm.
really. So yeah, she was just very frightening. She just slam her hand down on the desk to frighten us, kind of thing, and just shout at us every day. Really,
Yeah.
it was yeah, it was a nightmare.
It, it,
Yeah,
it's interesting you say that
yeah,
you was good at masking things, and you was like a different person at home as opposed to what you are at school. And I think that's some of the hard parts of parenting
mm,
as well, because
absolutely,
you never know what's happening at school unless your son or your daughter comes back and tells you about it.
exactly.
But then it's how you deal with it, you see. Like, kind of like, how would you, I mean, at that time, did you speak to your parents or anybody about it?
Not at first because I felt ashamed. I thought it was my fault. She made you feel like I'm shouting at you, I'm treating you like this because you've done something wrong. It's because of you, kind of thing.
Yeah,
So it made you feel like ashamed. So I didn't really discuss that. But obviously, after a while, parents would gauge it. My brother had seen um, like her carry on like that. So, 'cause
okay.
he used to be in a different part of the school, but he used to pick me up and walk together back home. So she would just shout and see, and he would see that as well. So so my parents did get me out of that classroom, but yeah, eventually I did say I was scared every
Yeah,
day. And then
yeah,
I went into a lovely class, lovely teacher. Just what I needed. She was just a breath of fresh air,
yeah.
completely different, calm and everything. But yeah.
And those quotes as well, because I like to read a lot of quotes. And there's one, right, where it says, um, people will forget what you say to them, right? People will often forget what you do for them as well,
Mm.
but they'll never forget how you made them feel,
Yeah.
right? And I always think that's super important because when we was having our
Yes.
pre-discussions and you mentioned some of that around the topic, I started to phone around different people, and you know what was I don't know, probably I'm in a bubble, but it was shocking the amount of people that had similar experiences in school. And it goes back to the role of the teachers as well, right? They play an important role in terms of shaping the journey of someone, because
Yeah.
what they say and they do to people has an impact
Yeah.
on them emotionally.
Definitely.
I mean, look, if you look at it, right, I'm going to show my age here. In the 80s, right, middle 80s, I think it was 85, no, 86, 86, right, they banned corporal punishment
Ah,
in schools.
was it
I think,
then?
yeah, about
Oh,
86. Yeah,
okay.
could be 86, right, in schools. And then was it a few years later, they banned it in private schools. But Anika, I remember, right, getting getting the caning.
Did
I'm
you?
talking about
Wow.
like it was probably about 84 in junior school. Right. I remember getting cane in. I won't
Wow.
expose my friends then. My good friend, it was me,
Yeah.
right? And we're still friends, two brothers, right? We're still friends. I met him at junior school and we're still friends to this
Oh,
day.
that's good.
Both of us got caning, right?
Gosh.
And look, we're talking, we're in 2023 now,
Yeah.
and I still remember
Of course you would.
that
Yeah.
experience. So that just goes back to
Yeah.
what you were saying, really, in terms of it has a lasting
It
impact
does.
on your memory.
Emotionally, yeah, it does. And if you don't address it, it's always going to resurface itself in other ways in your
Yeah,
relationships with other people as well.
yeah,
So you have to like get to the root of that and deal with it, heal from it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know I'm jumping a little bit here,
Okay.
but I like to touch on that a little bit, right?
Okay.
Because you would have experienced some of like people DMing you and so forth in
Yeah.
terms of you just says it has a lasting impact on people's relationships and trust issues as well,
Yes.
self-esteem.
Mm.
What are some of the things, right, through, and we'll talk about the school, like the teaching, what you're doing, but what are some of these things in terms of your therapy side
Okay.
that you see and some of the advice that you're providing people,
Okay.
like the key things that you're hearing?
Yeah, so one of them that sticks out is so a girl messaged me and she said, "Oh, can I please have your help, your advice? My boyfriend's just moved away. He's not contacting me as much. We're so in love, it's true love. What can I do to make him contact me a bit more? So can I please have your advice?" So I messaged her and I said to her, if it's true love, right, he's not going to have a problem with contacting you because love is a two-way thing. It flows both ways. It's back and forth. It's give and receive. If it's just one-sided, like it sounds like you're doing, you're making all the contact. It's unlikely to be that true love that you think it is at the moment. So, so I said, slow down, see how it goes. Is he contacting you? If he's not, then you have a choice to make. Basically, I don't like to make the choices for them, but you have a choice to make because you're still very, very young, and obviously, when you're that age, you think that you're in love, and really, it's just it's a crush or infatuation. Yeah. So yeah, always remember that love flows both ways.
Yeah,
It shouldn't be difficult to try and get them to contact you. You shouldn't be having to do that
yeah.
because he's going to want to do that if he's truly in love with you.
And do you think some of those, like, some of those concerns and issues
Yeah.
and trust, do you think that that goes may go back to some of issues that may have happened in previously in the past?
Absolutely. Like for example, abandonments. Like if children are abandoned by their mom, dad, or whatever, it they always tend to crave that person's love. They don't want to let them go. They're always contacting them. They're not responding back. It's always one sided.
Yeah.
So that's a very key in abandonment. They feel
Mm.
like I need to earn this person's love. I need to
Yeah.
win them over, kind of thing, so that
Yeah.
they don't ever leave me because it must be me. That's why everyone's leaving me. They
Yeah.
always sort of internalize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abandonment is a big
Oh
thing.
yeah.
They,
Huge.
in counseling, right? They
Mhm.
say the closest feeling to bereavement is, it's like nursery. I'd say nursery school
Yes.
when a parent drops their
Oh
child off,
yes.
right, and the parent leaves at that stage, right, because they're
Mm.
so young, the child doesn't know
Insane.
whether you're returning or not, right? So
Yeah.
that's why they cry
Oh
and
my
they go through
gosh.
that grieving process.
Yeah.
That struck me when because I did like introduction to counseling like years ago. But when they mentioned that, that's
Yeah.
something that stuck with me.
Oh my gosh, you see it all the time in reception that it's just you feel for them and you try and say, look, they're coming back, but they don't understand the like why they're leaving me here kind of thing. They just can't wrap their head around it. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's a horrible feeling,
yeah,
when someone that you love is trying to leave you kind of
mm,
thing. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, abandonment's is
Oh
a
gosh.
big issue, and a
It
lot of
is.
the first experience. We had a podcast episode. She won't mind me saying this because it's she discussed it on the pod as well. But Rachel Charles
Okay.
talked about the first time feeling abandonment was when her stepfather left,
Oh
and that was the kind of like the first feeling of
yes.
abandonment. And so it is true.
Yeah,
It is quite rife
it
out
is.
there.
It is. And then even with our community as well, with the West Indian community, where they had to leave their children back in the Caribbean and then send for them after. That was a sense of abandonment as well.
yeah,
And there's repercussions that you can see now with sibling rivalry and things like that.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
comes out in different ways. It might not be straight away, but years down the line, yeah, you see it.
It is true what you're saying because this year we're celebrating
Yeah.
75 years of Windrush, and we did an interview with, as I said, Sunrise Bakery, and we started to talk to people about it.
Yeah.
One of the things that the CEO said to all of us, is that he was doing an event, right, with a lot of the older generation. And he sat back, right, and he says, I wonder what they're thinking about. And then in the end, he says, I know what they're thinking about. They're thinking about life in Jamaica when they left, right?
Yeah.
How, fishing and the sun, the sea, and how it was. And they're reminiscing about that. And we never really sit back to think they left
Yeah.
Commonwealth countries like, in the Caribbean to come over here for a better life. It wasn't what
No.
they saw,
Yeah.
and the treatment that they would have went through at
Oh
the
my
time.
gosh.
Again, our previous pod we spoke about it, right, in terms of the mental health
Mm.
aspect of it, but it's that abandonment as
Yeah.
well because they would have left kids
Of
out there
course.
and kids would have
Yeah.
joined them at a later stage,
Yeah.
but the relationship
Has been
between them, it's
distorted.
still
Yeah.
is still that.
I know. And that sometimes doesn't ever repair itself if they don't address it. Because for some reason in that community, they don't tend to talk it out. It's just repressed inside and then it just comes out
Yeah,
in other ways. And it's just, and that relationship is just kind of broken,
yeah.
you know? So,
But
yeah.
what's that journey like though? Because I can imagine to start addressing something
Yeah.
is it is definitely, it's hard to start that journey.
Of course it is. It brings up a lot of hurt, doesn't it? And people don't want to face that hurt.
Yeah,
So they're going to kind of skirt around it, sweep it under the carpet, and never want to talk it out. But you have to talk out that hurt in order to heal it,
yeah.
isn't
Okay.
it?
So all right then, because we do want to touch on this area, right?
Okay,
But I want to go back right to the teaching.
right.
Why did you decide to go into teaching?
Well, yeah, first and foremost, I do love children and they're my heart, my passion. And I never ever wanted children to feel the way that I did when
Yeah,
I was at school being treated by that particular teacher. I wanted to provide a safe space for them
yeah,
and to have a good rapport and good relationship with them. So I went into teaching and
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And what age group do you teach then? What is the age
So
group?
I teach from reception to year six, so that's from 4 years old to 11 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what are the challenges that you see in the education system, or how, I should say, and how are you creating safe spaces for them? Because as I said, you went through
Yeah.
that kind of like time in your schooling.
Yeah.
But how do you now? What kind of things are in place to create these safe spaces for children?
Well, in general, they do have pastoral teams at the schools where they can actually talk to specialised people like that.
Yeah,
But if they feel comfortable talking to the teacher, then you can say to them, let's have a time for us to talk. Anytime you want, just tell us, we'll sit down and we'll talk. So I like to create those spaces where in our wellbeing times, a talk table, and then they
yeah,
can come over, have a chat with me, and yeah,
yeah.
and just get everything off their chest if they want to. And yeah, and
And
they enjoy it.
and for parents
Yeah.
though, because I can imagine the challenges. Because as parents, we, I have to say, 9 times out of 10, right, we don't see the wrong that our children
Yes,
do,
that's true.
right? And when we go to schools, we are raged, right? And we just at the teacher. We
Mm,
really in the teacher's face.
mm.
But as a teacher, right? What advice would you give to a parent if, number one, if their child has come back home and spoke to them about a situation that they've gone through at school,
Okay.
which is like a teacher's probably said something to them
Mm,
that's upset them. What advice would you give to parents, right? How do they address it? Because
yeah.
for me, I'd probably be angry and I don't know how I would like have a open
Yeah.
conversation. but that's probably not the best way to address things.
Yeah, I would say hold off on the anger. I know it's natural feeling because you want to protect your child and everything, but get two sides of the story because sometimes, not often, but children do distort their the real what happens really. So
Yeah,
just make an appointment, call the school, make an appointment with the teacher. Can I speak to so and so's teacher? And then sit down and just say exactly what the child has said to you, and then give the teacher a chance to explain why what was said and why it was said.
yeah,
Yeah. So, because sometimes children, especially if they've done something wrong at school, they try and turn things around and like, oh, the teacher said this, that, and to me, but they don't say the reason why, what happened, in that
yeah,
scenario kind of thing. So just calmly make an appointment with the school, talk to the teacher,
yeah.
and she'll explain everything, or he'll explain everything that you need to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the arts, right? So therapeutic arts life coach. Why did you go
Oh.
into that? And what is it? What is
So
that?
that's kind of like getting your expressions out on pieces of paper, using colors, calming colors. It's very therapeutic when you color in general,
Yeah,
but it's like you can make patterns, and it does something to your brain. It kind of calms you down.
yeah,
So that's what we do at school as well. We do those well-being sessions where we get those big coloring sheets, make different patterns, and they can color in and write words around it. So I'm very artistic. I like to draw, paint, and do crafts and things. So I thought combine the two. I like to coach as well online.
yeah,
So I combined the two and did a course remotely on that.
yeah.
And yeah, it's so try it. It's very therapeutic.
So and how
Yeah.
are you using it outside of school as well? So what are the thing? How do you use it?
Well, I do that all the time in my drawings and paintings. That's one of my hobbies. It kind of calms me down and gets me in a space where I feel, at ease and at zen, if you like, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah,
But yeah, but I haven't actually used it on people on coaching yet.
yeah.
But I more so use it with the children at school.
Mm.
Yeah.
And do the children have kind of like access to things like counselors and so forth, especially for the children this
Mhm.
send children as well? Do they have access to counselor, and is it easy to get that support?
Not really. They don't have a school counsellor there, really.
Yeah,
Like I said, they've got pastoral teams, but sometimes that's not really enough. But they do have, like, say, if a child has a bereavement, they do have specialists coming in, like a counsellor, where
yeah,
they meet with them every week or every month, and
mm,
then touch base on them and try and get them to talk about, their mum or their dad or whoever they've lost.
yeah,
So they do have that in place for those who are bereaved. But in a general sense, there's not really a counselor or mentor there
yeah.
for them to kind of like, yeah, to vent out and to do the inner work.
Mm. Is that needed in the school? Do you
Oh
think
yeah,
that it is that a gap that you see in the schools?
absolutely. There is definitely a big gap for that
Yeah,
because some teachers don't have time really. They don't have the time to sit there for an hour on each child because they've got other things to do in terms of teaching them the subjects. But it's definitely needed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine, I know those the kids that you were probably a bit young,
Mhm.
but especially in our community, we got a problem with knife crime problem, right? And young people are losing their lives as well. It's hard to think that those that are going into school to hear that their friend or someone in their class as is a victim of that. How do they recover from that? And how did schools kind of like respond to things like that as well?
Do you know, I don't think schools do. I think they
Yeah.
could do more, but they don't really delve into things like that, which
Mm.
I think they should.
Yeah.
They've only got the pastoral team there, which kind of deals with behaviour rather than actually, someone that's actually experienced that. They haven't got that in place. I would say that they definitely need that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a resource thing, or as you said, it's the time as well, or because you fit in so much things into the year, their curriculum, there's things that the kids have to get through.
Yeah, but I think that's important. We need those key important things addressed. Really, they do need to have a lesson actually on it and
Mm.
and discuss these sort of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So becoming an author, right? Why and how did you start that process?
Okay. Well, I was at a school once. It was a very small independent school, and I was teaching the children about animals and their offspring. You'll see where this weaves in, and I kind of wanted to make it more engaging for them. So I kind of did a little book. It was like
Yeah,
with cards, fluorescent cards, and pictures and things like that. And I kind of made it into a book. And then when I was teaching the lesson through that book, I saw that they were so engaged and they really enjoyed it. So I thought, why not actually do a proper book and publish it, kind of thing. But that route, publishing it, is very, very difficult. So I self-published it, and that was the first book I did, the animal one. And then I thought to myself, well, children need self-esteem, confidence, and they need to know their self-worth.
yeah,
We need to build their character. So I did a book called "I Want What She's Got,"
yeah,
and and then from there I did a few more books after that, 6 books after that.
yeah. You got
Yeah,
quite a few. You got quite a few books
yeah,
out there,
yeah.
but you're not the first person to say going through the publishing route
Mm.
is difficult. What are the challenges? What challenges did you face?
Well, there's a lot of competition, and you just get kind of rejection after rejection. They don't see your vision, or so it's kind of like just do it yourself. But in that sense, there's a negative to it as well because you
Yeah,
can't control the prices and things. Because like at the moment, my books are too high, I think, in price because of the self-publishing routes. 'Cause they take, commission off it, and
yeah,
things like that. But I actually did an ebook, which is a lot easier, a lot cheaper for
yeah,
people to purchase. So
yeah.
yeah.
And what's your kind of like writing style? Like, how do you get into that creative mind? Is it that something that you've gone through throughout the day or so you start writing about it, or do you write a little bit at the end of the day? How do you start pulling your book together?
It's nothing that has happened to me. It's just something like I'll be just sitting there and something comes to me. I'm like, oh, okay. And I just kind of write it down as and when I get these inspirations. I
Yeah,
might be watching a TV program or something and I get inspiration from that scene.
yeah,
So then write it down, put it all together, and then start the book process, the writing process. And
yeah.
then I do the pictures, draw the pictures to go alongside the writing.
So do you do all the drawing
Yeah,
yourself?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do it very child friendly because I know that children respond to that basic
Yeah,
child friendly pictures.
yeah.
They're not into the detail and the things like that. They're just like the basic. So yeah.
The book, right?
Mhm.
Because as you said, right, it's just things that come to you and you write about it.
Yes.
One of the books, right, Just Being Me,
Yes.
right? And that talks about the importance of walking in our true self, helps our overall quality of life. And you use like messages in the book, right, to help girls embrace
Yes.
who they are as females. Now, on social media or, in that atmosphere, there's a lot of things in terms of our consciousness of our self body of what we look like, um which again, right, is having an impact on our thought process. So some people are doing risky things to change their bodies,
Absolutely.
they're having surgery and so forth. What's your kind of like thoughts on that, and why was it so important to have that book about just being me?
Well, so I thought to myself because I'm an observer. You see, I like to analyze people and things. I noticed that a lot of girls and women are trying to be more masculine because they feel like it's going to get them ahead in life, kind
Yeah,
of thing. So they see femininity as a weakness rather than a power kind of thing. Because I think femininity is a power, just like masculinity is a power in its own right as well.
yeah,
So so that's why I wrote the book. It's a little girl that's trying to be like a brother, trying to be masculine and not living her true self. But when she's living her true self, she sees that things are actually going her way.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, so I just feel like people should be living in their own essence of who they are,
yeah.
really.
do, do you think it's challenging though as well now,
Yeah.
right, being able to live in the true essence
Oh yes.
of yourself? Because there's the problem of the image, people's image out there. People always want to look like something that's probably unachievable,
Mm.
right? You'll see the pictures out there where people look,
Yeah.
but naturally it's
Of
unachievable to
course.
to get that.
Yeah.
But what are the pressure? A lot of pressure that comes with.
Yeah, so much pressure. It's well, social media is definitely one of them. You got all these influencers, and they're it's not really them. You got the 'cause you can get apps where you can change your makeup and your body image and things like that, which is not actually them. So people like teenagers, for example, they're seeing this like I need to get that body. When that body's not a realistic, like you said, it's not a realistic version of a human being. And then they see that what they're putting on social media, these influencers have got these men that are flying them out here, there, and everywhere. They're buying them the expensive gifts and things, and they're like, "I want what she's got," kind of thing. Um, but it's all their facade, isn't it? It's not actually a true picture of what's happily actually happening. So, so yeah, they're just trying to achieve something that it's not achievable.
And sometimes as well, how I say look
Mm,
at it, people want things fast,
yeah,
right? Going to the gym, right, help you build a healthy lifestyle is good on your well-being as well.
yeah.
But people want results straight
Straight away.
away, straight away. So they
That's the
want to
thing.
bypass the gym and surgery.
It's a risky business, isn't it? Because a lot of people have actually had fatalities trying to change their bodies,
Yeah.
you know. And yeah, people aren't happy with themselves. They're just not. It's because of the images that are put out on the media and social media.
Mm.
And it's a shame, really.
Yeah.
It's a shame. But everyone feels that pressure, don't they?
Yeah.
To be honest.
And that book, right?
Yeah.
I want what she's got, right? Again, for children, that's especially if you got
Yeah.
siblings, right? Or you in a house of, brothers and sisters. One person gets a sweet, the other person wants a sweet.
Yeah.
But right, the serious side of it as well, it's not just when I looked at that book, it's not just children as well, because that could fall into to adults as well,
Absolutely.
right? And people get themselves into debt because they've saw somebody with something. They don't know how they've achieved it, but they want it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's always like the grass is always greener on the other side because it's with adults. That's what inspired me to write the book as well. People always say, "Oh gosh, I wish I had hair like hers. I wish I had skin like hers, or the car that he's got." And they don't know that other people are actually looking at them and saying, "Oh, I wish I had the confidence that she's got, or the personality that he's got." Everyone's always looking at somebody else. I want what he or she has got, um, and no one ever looks at deep within and looks at the gifts that they have. Because everyone possesses gifts. Everyone's
Yeah,
got good things that you can do things that I can't do, and I could do things that maybe you can't do, and vice versa. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's just yeah, it's just getting people to kind of understand their own gifts, their true gifts that they've got to give to this world because everyone's got it.
yeah.
Everyone.
There's something right, and I'm going to read this to you
Okay.
because I'm going to read a few to you because there's a few things that you've put out there that interest me, and I
Okay.
wanted to know where, like, the thought process
Okay.
behind it, because it would probably be come from someone that's reached out to you for support. But one of them, right, you mentioned is only those with a false high perception of self will intentionally try to make others feel less than.
Oh yes. Yeah.
That kind of goes back to as well. Um, it may have gone back to that teacher, that shouted not at you
Yeah.
as well, not just at you, but probably to the other
That's true.
kids.
Yeah. So she might have been dealing with things that we don't really know, but she's just taking it out on us. And that's usually the case. If you look at like arrogant people, they're always trying to make people feel less than. That's not confidence. That's an insecurity because I need to be seen. I need to make you feel less than so that I feel good within myself. But if you're confident, you don't have to do that. You just live in your confidence and you can live bringing other people up. You're inspired by their gifts rather than jealous of them. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And another one as well. And I think sometimes I think this one's hard. Right, it can be hard. It can be hard.
Mhm.
But you've put something out there, right, that says being very selective with who you spend your time with is one of the wisest things you can do. That's
Absolutely.
a true quote,
Yeah.
a very, very true quote,
Yeah.
but sometimes hard to achieve.
It is, but it's if you look at your friendship circle, for example, because iron sharpens iron, as you know,
Yeah.
whoever you surround yourself with does you act in that way as well. So you've got to be very wise with who your friends are, who you're getting advice from, because it does shape who you are as well. Subconsciously, you might not realize it at the time, but it does kind of shape you.
Yeah.
So it's very wise to stay away from people who are idle, who just want to get you into trouble, who try to use you. Just stay away from those people and actually, surround yourself with inspiring people that are, trying to better themselves day by day.
And that's important in the early years as well,
Mm.
because through like your early schooling,
Yes.
right, the friends that you surround yourself with, I'm still friends with like a group of friends that I went to nursery with, right, and they kind of like shaped who I am because we're similar like-minded people throughout life. You have journey and you meet different associates and so forth, and you realize that these people are not
Yeah.
probably for me, so I deter. But it's important in the schools. Is that something that you bring into your schools as well, in terms of, because you have to treat all the kids the same,
Yeah.
right? You have to be fair and
Of
you can't be
course.
speaking about other kids and so forth. But as a teacher, you probably will identify the ones that, okay, I want to move this pupil away from that group because
Oh yeah.
it's distracting
Yes.
them, and if they continue, they're not going to achieve what you think that they can achieve. Do you
Yeah.
see that a lot?
Yeah, you see certain potential. You can see personalities very early on with the children. And if you feel like this person's actually bringing that other person down, yes, you might want to separate them where they sit or where they play. But you can only do that to a certain extent because children are going to choose their friends
Yeah,
regardless. But you can only like separate them in class and do as much as you can with that. But yeah, and they're only very young as well, so it's kind of in reception you can't really they don't really they don't really influence each other in that way. I
yeah.
think it's because when they get to teenage.
Teenage
Yeah.
years.
So that's when the issues yeah, it's not really an issue at that stage. Yeah.
How much is the family life though, in like, should be involved in that as well? Because I do believe that the parents should be working hand in hand
Yeah.
with the schools with any issues that they have. Do you see that a lot as a teacher?
You mean with the parents trying to like support who they're playing with or, who
So,
they're hanging around with?
yeah, just some of the things. Say, for instance,
Mm.
that you notice that a child is kind of like going around with a particular group
Okay.
of people. You don't want to stop the friendships, but you
Yeah.
want to kind of like monitor it a little bit.
Yes.
Do you have, well, as a school, does the school have conversations with the parents as well,
Oh
and
yeah.
say, do you know what, when you're at home, what kind of conversations are you having? Because I do think it's a two-way thing. The teachers can only do so much, but
Yeah.
the discussions that's happening in the family home
Mm.
as well plays a massive part.
It definitely does. Yeah. So when, for parents' evening, we might discuss things like that. Keep an eye on your child. Like, what are they bringing home? Is there any change in behavior at home because of the certain group that they're hanging around with? So we'll have those discussions. And then it's obviously up to the parents then to talk to the children as well. We can do that as well and have a joint kind of a
Mm.
partnership in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you talk a lot about respecting yourself,
Yes.
right? And because if you respect yourself, it kind of like dictates how other people,
Absolutely.
how other people see you as well and respect you. How important is that, and how do you support people as well in regards to, or what messages do you put out there for people to say, look, you need to start respecting yourself
Yeah.
so that other people will start knowing your value and respecting you?
Well, yeah. So it's you can't respect yourself if you don't really know your worth, really. So getting people to know their worth, their value, what to accept, what not to accept, have boundaries, set a line. If people cross that line, then you know not to hang around with them. Um, yeah. So how you treat yourself is teaching other people how to treat you
Yeah,
and how to respect you. So yeah, if people aren't seeing your value of embracing them, then they shouldn't be in your life really like that.
yeah.
So so yeah.
Quite a few people got to me because they knew that this episode was coming up, right? And people that's on healing journeys, and I know someone's healing journey is different. Everyone's
Yes.
healing journey is different, right? But it's always that start of a healing journey, right? Is the difficult one, right? What advice do you have though, or how would you recommend that somebody will start a healing journey? Because again, when you know in yourself, sometimes that's scary
Very.
because you're starting to understand things about yourself that you may not like,
Yeah.
right? And you may not want to address it
Yeah.
as yet, but until you address it, you won't move forward.
Exactly.
What is that like in terms of like that starting that journey?
It is very challenging because when you point it out to people, sometimes they will say, I'm healed. I don't need to heal. I don't need to address it. It doesn't bother me. But you can see in their behavior, in their conversations with you, that it's still, a problem in their life. So I would say, you know, write everything out, your hurts, your feelings out on a piece of paper where you don't have to actually talk to somebody else about it first. Just do just you and that paper, just release anything that's upsetting you on that paper. Then the next step is just then talk to a counselor, maybe talk to a coach, and start the ball rolling really with that.
Yeah,
But a lot of things are repressed, and that's the scary bit that were mentioning about. Um, when they actually unsurface those hurts, is not a nice feeling. So
yeah,
they always try and avoid it. It's a painful process, but it's a necessary process if you want to move on
yeah.
in this life.
And a lot of it is around
Yes.
trust, right? Because if you're opening up about things, number one, you've got to trust that person.
Yeah.
And this is why people have different views about going to counseling,
Mm,
right? But it's about finding the right counselor.
absolutely.
But again, it's once you unpack something, you've got to pull it away because that person now is left vulnerable, right?
Yeah. That's yeah. That's the thing. Yeah, they are vulnerable. So you surround yourself with people that you can trust and have an accountability partner as
Yeah,
well. So whenever you're feeling weak or vulnerable about that, you can lean on someone else to kind of build you up, and vice versa.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've heard that. I
Accountability
can't,
partner.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've not heard that before.
It's definitely a good strategy to have, so that you're not feeling alone all the time,
Yeah,
with it, because it can be isolating trying to heal and to address those hurts because you feel like nobody else has felt what you felt. But
yeah,
if you talk to a lot of people, actually a lot of people have felt it, and it's quite common.
yeah.
So
What would the accountability partner do? Like, would you recommend that as also? Would you recommend that it's someone that's close to you, or someone that you don't know? Or, like,
it can be both, really, whatever you feel comfortable with. Some people don't really want someone that they know because
yeah,
they want a fresh start. Just they want someone that's not going to judge them or anything. So they might choose a mentor that they work with or someone like that. But
yeah,
some people do feel comfortable with someone that they know and
mm,
someone that they can trust. And they'll say, look, if I'm acting out in this way, please let me know and I can work on it and, help me to work on it and vice versa. If you're struggling with that area, I can help you and we can keep each other accountable
yeah.
in that.
That's something good. Do you know what? You learn something new every day, right? And that
Yeah.
accountability partner is definitely. I've never heard of that.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
yeah, I've
should
never
try
heard of that.
it.
So that's that that's something that I've heard. But another one, right?
Yeah.
Another one is this one that you've mentioned, right? One person's no is another person's yes, and never internalize rejection. Again, I don't know if it's just in our community, right? Because I've spoke to quite a few people that go through like job interviews and so forth from our community as well. And when they get that no, they stop there.
Yeah.
And then when we look at recruitment of ethnic minority people, I think, and I could be wrong, but I think it's that rejection. When you get that first rejection,
Yeah.
you don't go again,
Exactly.
right? And you stop and you start saying, "Wow, it's because of X, Y, and Z why I didn't get that job, or it's
Mm.
because of this why it didn't happen." And when you read that about, you know,
Yeah.
that no, I thought to myself, that's true. But
Yeah.
why did that come to your head as well?
Because not everyone is going to see your value. the right person will see your value if we're talking relationship wise, or the right job will see your value. So wherever you belong, they're going to see your value, but not everyone is going to see it.
Yeah.
That's so you don't internalize it. It's not like there's something wrong with you. It's just you're not right for that person or you're not right for that job,
Yeah.
you know? So keep going because the wrongest thing you can do is to stop there when you got the first no.
Yeah.
Keep going because
Yeah.
someone is going to see your value and it's going to be the right person.
And I can imagine, right, when you was doing your books,
Yes,
you wouldn't have got a yes straight away
exactly.
to
Yeah.
even publishing it and
Mm.
so forth. So you continued persevering. But again, it is hard. It is hard.
Of course, rejection is always going to be hard, but I always see it as a blessing rather than a curse.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're released from that situation because imagine if they said yes and they're the wrong person, and then now you're in years of torments and things like that. So you've just saved yourself a headache, really,
Yeah.
being with the wrong person. So yeah, just see it as a blessing, and it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. Sometimes easier said than
I know,
done, right? But
I know.
I do, I think those things that you're putting out there does is empowering, and
Thank
it
you.
will empower people. And I can imagine people probably reaching out to you off the back of some of the stuff that you put
Yeah.
out there and having those discussions.
Absolutely, they do. Like to DM me. Some will say, hi, how you? They just want to know me, kind of thing. But I like the ones that actually ask my advice and things. And oh, that post really did reach and touch my heart, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of inspiring for me because then that makes me want to keep going.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's about, really.
And where do you see it going? Is it something that you want to increase doing, but where do you see the direction of travel going? Because there's a lot of motivation. It's good that we're starting to flood the internet now with positive affirmations and so forth, because I think there's a lot of
Oh,
negative
there
things
is.
out there, and we
Yeah.
can always argue about social media, but we can't change it.
No.
So what we can do is what we put out there.
Exactly.
What is your future vision?
With this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to set up like a more formal online coaching,
Yeah.
one to ones or even group coaching.
Yeah.
I want to set that up at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just see where we go from there. Really,
Okay.
continue counselling and yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a question, right?
hmm
And we normally, where's my questions? I'm
Okay.
gonna ask you this question, and this is from our last guest. One
Okay.
of our questions that we ask is always from one of our last guests. I don't really know what the question is, so we're gonna throw
Okay.
throw the curveball to you,
Oh my gosh.
right? But this is from the one and only Sir Terence Wallen, and he was the his book's on the table as
Ah,
well.
so it's one.
Yeah, the second to top, I Am Famous.
Oh right.
Yeah, and
Okay. Lovely.
he was our first author that came on.
Wow.
But this is his question. He didn't know what guest we were gonna ask this question. So, if you had to um choose right now, right, between time, money, love, relationship, which would it be and in what order? So I'm going to remind you now because
Okay.
this is so
Okay.
I'll repeat this question. I kind of when I saw Terrence, Mr. Wallen writing this question, he was writing it for a very long time. So I always knew that this was going to be a long question, but I'll repeat it again.
Okay.
If you had to choose right now between time, money, love, and relationship, which would it be and in what order? So we're gonna order them
So order them from.
from one to four. So there's
Okay.
four of these
So it's
these
time, love, money, and
relationship.
relationship. Um, well, I feel like we've already got love in us anyway, because you love your family, you love your friends. So that's number one. Love is
Yeah,
always important. And then obviously second is going to be relationship because we all have relationship with each other and you need that in society.
yeah,
So love, relationship, and then there's time and money. Um, Probably money because time, you can't change that. Time is going to go and whatever you do with that time is up to you, and you may just make it constructive.
Yeah.
So I would probably no, actually I wouldn't. No, probably time then money.
Yeah.
Yeah, money lasts. I'm not about that.
Okay. Terence, that was a long question. The next time we ask him, right, is we're not gonna hand him this book because he'll be writing forever.
Oh gosh.
So, have you got any more books that you're penning or?
Not at the moment, but never say never. I had a break from it, but I probably will do
Yeah,
another book or two.
yeah,
Yeah, probably towards adults and teenagers rather than children now.
yes.
So I might do one for teenagers. That's always
Mm.
a rocky road, isn't it? Teenage area.
I think we need ones for
Yeah,
teenagers.
yeah.
Definitely need ones for teenagers because again, it is rocky road,
Mm.
and preferably as well, if you can, right, do a book right for fathers, right, with teenagers
Right.
and how to manage
Okay.
teenagers because I think it's challenging.
It is.
It is challenging, especially like daughters, and they go through those teenage years. For a father, right, it's challenging kind of managing that because you got that protective
Yeah.
father thing, but also you've got to let go at some point. You have to let them
Live their life.
live their life and have those experiences, which is a difficult, I think, between the ages of, I would say, it starts from roughly around 13, 14, and then it goes through right towards 18, 19. That's a difficult
Yeah.
year because, and this is a conversation I had with one of my friends really. I said every year you have to let go, but that let go is like our grieving process as men,
Of
right? It's
course.
our grieving because we're letting go a little bit and they are becoming themselves because you have to let them develop into themselves. But I know this wasn't a question, but I'm going to ask you this one, right? How, what kind of advice, like if I was to ask you
Okay.
advice in terms of, okay, daughter, between those years, them teenage years, as a father, what advice would you give to manage
Goodness.
that period?
Well, I would say definitely let them make their own mistakes, because if you don't make mistakes, you're never ever going to grow and learn. So they
Yeah,
need to make mistakes, and they need to a certain degree, but always let her know that you are there for her no matter what. She can talk to you no
yeah,
matter what. Whatever the topic is, have that rapport and relationship where she can open up to you about everything. You don't want her to be hiding things. So yeah, just always be there as a protective figure. Say that I'm there for you, but you need to go out, make your mistakes. We're
yeah,
not going to judge you for making mistakes, because that's how you're going to learn in life.
yeah,
If I model cuddle you and never let you make those mistakes, we're always going to be at square one.
yeah,
You're never ever going to grow, kind of thing.
yeah.
So yeah, so just I would say chill out for a little bit, but do be there as a protective father, and always let her know that you're there for her.
And that's important as well, where you say that
Yeah,
those safe spaces,
yeah,
because in the schools you're promoting that safe space, but also, and this is why we're gonna urge you now. We're watching you
yeah,
right for this book because we need it. It's how you create that safe space because it is important what you said that the children and the teenagers, they need to be able to come back and speak to us
they
even
do.
if they make a mistake,
Yes.
right? And they feel that you're going to disapprove of what
Mm,
they did or you're going to be unhappy with the mistake
yeah,
that they made, but you still have to create that environment for them to come back and say, Mom, Dad, I made this mistake,
exactly.
it needs fixing, because
Yeah.
then you be in a position to support them, isn't it?
Exactly. And you know exactly what's happening in their lives. You're not having to worry, "Oh, I wonder if, this has happened or that has happened." You're always in the dark then, but you want to be in that light, knowing exactly what's happening in her life.
Yeah,
So that's why that rapport and relationship has to be there, so
yeah,
she can be open with you.
okay.
Yeah.
And I think also
Mm.
for sons, it especially in this time period as well, with everything that's happening in the community, sons also need to be able to
Yeah.
come home and speak
They
because
do.
you've got things like, I don't know, grooming and the
I
county
know.
lines and
Yeah.
so forth as well. And it's about being able to pick up on those signs,
Oh,
right? And them
absolutely.
speaking to us.
Yes. Yeah. So if it's any change in behavior, if you notice anything that's different about them, just go up to them and talk to them. They might not want to talk to you at first,
Yeah.
but just in a supportive manner.
Yeah.
Don't kind of accuse them or anything like that, otherwise they're going to shut off.
Yeah.
So just in a conversation, maybe put some scenarios together. Oh, what would you do if such and such did this?
Yeah.
What would you do? And they'll open up to you then. And they'll
Yeah.
say, well, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because,
Yeah.
you know,
Do you do scenarios in your school? I know it's probably the kids may be a bit young, right? But do you do any scenarios on any different topics within the
Yeah,
class?
we do things like bullying as well. We might have some scenarios
Yeah.
because that's something that the children don't like to share at all. They always keep that bottled up if they're being bullied or if they've
Yeah.
seen it. So we do make these scenarios or maybe videos and books where they can open up and they feel like it's a safe space and, no one's going to hurt them. We're going to protect you. So, yeah,
Yeah.
we do things like that.
I think that's good. The scenario based work
Yeah.
is really really good.
Absolutely. And you do it in a child friendly manner. It might be in a cartoon way or
Yeah.
you might act it out or something like that.
Yeah.
It gets them to be a bit more comfortable then.
And do you pick up on signs as well? Do you know, as you've mentioned that, a child may be their appearance may change
Mm.
or they may become withdrawn.
Yes.
Do you have that conversation with the parents, or is there
Oh,
a
yeah.
process that you have to follow before you start having those
No,
conversations?
if you do notice they're out of character or if they're doing some untoward things, definitely have that conversation straight away with the parents. Have you noticed what we've noticed at school and kind of compare notes together?
Yeah.
And then, if you do notice this, please don't hesitate to contact me and we can work this out together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find it challenging
To do
having
that.
those conversations with the parents?
Not really, because it's the well-being of the child, so
Yeah.
we have to do it.
Yeah.
If we want to protect the child and we want them to be a happy space, then yeah,
Yeah.
we will have those conversations.
And are parents receptive to those?
Most are. It depends. Yeah, I've not personally had any parents that have disagreed with that or anything like that because they
Yeah.
know that we're trying to look out for the children.
Yeah.
And then the children, they know that the children love us as well as teachers, so
Mm.
they kind of trust us because they know that the children trust us as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, one thing that I should have asked this earlier on, but I wanted to touch on, through COVID, when the schools were closed and so forth.
yes.
Now that you've come back in,
Mhm.
have you noticed a difference in terms of the educational needs for children? Have they
Yeah,
fell behind, or
yeah.
is there a lot of catching up to do?
There's a lot of catching up. The COVID era, we call them. The ones that were at home at the time, the whole school year mostly was at home. Yeah, there is a lot of catching up in terms of interpersonal skills and social skills.
Yeah.
With the work wise, not so much because they're quite quick children. They learn very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of social skills, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That interpersonal
Yeah.
skills is because there's kids that do homeschooling and so
Yes.
forth as
Yeah.
well. But I think, as you've mentioned, those interpersonal skills is
Oh,
important
yeah.
because they need that as when
Definitely
they're
do.
growing up,
Yeah.
throughout their journey.
Of course, it's very key to them. It's not just about the academic side. They need to know how to deal with people, how to deal with having a fallout with a friend, how do you make up kind of thing,
Yeah,
choosing your friends wisely. They need all that interpersonal skills,
yeah.
which they don't get if they're just isolated at home.
And I also think that's one of the sides of teaching that,
Mm,
as parents, we probably don't see
yeah,
the importance of the teacher's roles. You're not just in the classroom
no,
teaching them the curriculum. You're also teaching those interpersonal skills, and that playtime
yes,
banter and talk as well.
yeah.
It's important.
Oh yeah, very important. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of hats as teachers that we wear. In some cases, you're like a parent figure, unfortunately, because they don't have that at home.
Yeah,
So you're a parent figure, you're a carer, you're an educator, you're a mentor, a counselor, all those things to the children. So yeah,
yeah. You don't see those. It's only now in my adulthood
yeah.
I see those different
Oh,
hats that teachers wear. But I'll be honest with you, years
yeah.
ago, I wouldn't have that level of respect for
Yeah,
the
for
teachers.
teachers, yeah.
But I see now
Mm,
that teachers, especially as you've mentioned,
yeah.
through COVID, kids that are at home
Yeah.
were behind, right, in terms of that interpersonal
Yes.
skills. Is there anything or what does the school do to kind of like bring that back up to the levels that it should be?
I guess we have like lessons where, like well-being lessons where you can talk to a partner, talk to a group, swap tables, talk to someone else that you won't normally talk to. Those kind of activities that we do in the day.
Yeah,
Yeah, that kind of helps them, I think, and gets just getting them out of their comfort zone, really.
yeah.
Yeah.
And do you see a big difference now between the time where you was at school to
So now,
now?
absolutely, yeah. I mean, when I was at school, they didn't really diagnose autism properly or
Yeah,
ADHD, or so anyone that would act up out of character would be just labelled as behavioural issue, but they don't really look at the undertoned reasons why they're doing that kind of thing.
yeah,
So, I when I was at school, well, my brother had this naughty boy. Well, he was labelled as naughty in his class. He was held back into my class the year after, which is very unheard of. He would just be climbing on walls, tables, chairs, really, challenging behaviour, and no one really did anything about it. But looking back now, because me and my brother was having a discussion about it, he could have had ADHD, he could have had autism, he could have had any of these things that caused him to act out in that way.
yeah,
But no one really picked up on it back then. Whereas now they do pick up on things like that, and they're,
yeah.
quick to diagnose things or send them to specialists um, to get that looked at. That's one of the differences I've noticed.
You know,
Yeah,
having said that, right,
yeah.
and I don't know if this happens
Mm.
now, but you've just brought back a memory
Oh,
now
really?
for school. There was a few people, right, that were in older years, but then they didn't leave with that year.
Mm,
They stayed and did an extra year.
okay.
And as kids, when we're asking, well, why is this person in our
Yeah,
class?
it's like.
What they at the time, do you know what? It's funny having this conversation because at the time, they it was sold to us that because of their age
It's
and because they were in that class,
yeah,
but their school year age
yeah.
should be in our class or vice versa. It used to happen a lot, you know.
It probably did, but but it's more to, I don't know, it's unheard of in England so much. They do that a lot in America. I know that, but actually looking back at it, it does happen a lot. But they're told us different rhetorics to the story, so we just didn't know. We didn't realize that that was happening. It
Okay.
just happened on a sly. They just told you this because it sounds good, or you don't want to pinpoint that person. But
Yeah.
it probably did happen because of those reasons.
Yeah,
So
as you were saying, you know, I just remembered. Hold on, there was a few
yeah.
people in different year groups, right? Especially there was two of them specifically that came into our
In your
year
group, yeah.
group, but they should have left with the year group
Um,
above us. This was when we was in junior
yeah.
school, to be fair. And as kids, your questions like,
Yeah.
"What are you doing here? You should have left with them."
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they
Okay.
just tell you anything and you believe it as a child. It's only when you're an adult you look back and you think, oh, hang on a minute, what's going on there? It doesn't make sense, does it?
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah.
Okay, listen. The last few areas that we want to cover
Yeah.
really is again going back to some of the because you said that you know art is very therapeutic.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you this question, right?
Okay.
Because for me, music is very therapeutic,
Oh,
and music always brings me back to time periods in my journey throughout the life.
yeah.
What track, right? Brings you brings memories of kind of like happy places for you?
Mm.
What song
Oh
or
gosh. Um, I would say the garage scene, which was in the
yeah,
90s, was that 90s or naughty 90s, wasn't it?
yes, yeah,
Yeah, so any like track from the garage scene does
yeah,
bring back happy memories, I would
yeah.
say.
That was an
Yeah.
era as
That
well.
that was a good era,
That was a good
wasn't
era.
it?
That was yeah. That
Yeah.
was the era. I don't know how long it lasted, but it was
Yeah.
a good time period. I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
90s to the noughties, as I would say, early noughties.
Yes,
Yeah, that's the time I can remember. That always kind of brings back happy summery memories kind of
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
We're gonna write that down. What we're gonna do, right, is we're gonna start asking our
Mm,
guests, right, about music, and we're
okay.
gonna write it down, and we may compile a little mix
Oh.
music mixing with
Nice.
different things. But
Yeah.
a big question we always ask people as well.
Yes.
Now that we've talked a bit about your journey and why you do the things that you do, if you could go back into that classroom, right, and sit by your younger self,
Oh my gosh.
right, and speak to her, what are some of the advice, knowing now you've gone on the journey and you're motivating other people, what would you say to your younger self?
I'd probably say don't be so concerned with what people think of you. Don't be so worried about, not in a disrespectful way, because obviously you want people's opinions and things, but don't let that take over who you are. Don't try and fit into other people's molds. Just be you, whether it looks quirky, whether it looks strange to other people, just be you and don't worry about what people think. Because if you're worrying about what people think, you're not going to live your true self, are you? So yeah, so just be you.
Anika, that's why it's important the things that you're doing because,
Thank you.
as I say, at the time going back to our younger self,
Yeah.
we don't know, right? And again, we've had the discussion today is that it's important that we make those mistakes. It's important that we go through those things as well because it's the journey that builds us as
Absolutely.
individuals. But we always need that person to say, encourage us,
Yes.
motivate us. You're going through a rough time at the moment, but things will get better. This is
Absolutely.
building your character. And as kids, they don't know. Or
Yeah.
as even as adults, we
Mm.
go through things and we don't know. And this is why your affirmations and the things that you're putting out there, continue doing them
Thank you very
because
much.
someone will be reading and it may help them to get through that period of time.
Thank you so much. That's why I do it because I do want it to touch people's heart, spirits, and just lift them up. That's what I want to do.
Okay, so
Yeah.
before you go,
Yeah.
how can our viewers get in contact with you if they wanted to ask your advice or they wanted to talk to you about a situation? How
Okay.
could they get in contact with you?
You can get in contact with me on Instagram at Anneka Jordan. You can contact me on Facebook at Anneka Jordan Books. Yeah.
Anika, thanks for joining
Oh,
us
thank you
today.
for inviting me.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Sure.